everyone. I have a treat for you all today. I have another interview. So today I interviewed Jordon from Jordon's Flower Farm. She is in her first year of flower farming out in Oklahoma, but don't let that deceive you because she went in big. You're gonna see what I'm talking about, but we're talking about farming at a scale that most of us can't even fathom, let alone getting it all done in the first year. And the reason why I really wanted to interview Jordon was because number one, she speaks to my heart. We kind of talk about Excel, pivot tables, all that stuff, but her mind functions very similarly to mine. And I see her going to great places, especially in the next few years. I'm very excited to see where her farm goes, and she's made so much progress in year one. So I wanted to do an interview to pick her brain to better understand how her sales outlets are. We talk about her farmers markets, her price points. We talk about selling to florists, how she does things like availability sheets. So we get into the nitty-gritty details, and I left feeling really inspired, but also really excited for her to just see what she's going to be able to accomplish. So this interview is about an hour long. It's really sprinkled with a lot of good stuff along the way. So I would watch the whole thing if you can. And Jordan's information is all in the description below, as well as throughout the video in terms of how you can follow her on social media. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this interview. Hey Jordan, welcome to my YouTube second interview ever. I'm so glad to have you on the show. I just wanted to give people, I guess, a bit of an understanding of where various flower farmers are in their first year. And for me, you were super interesting as just someone to follow on Instagram because you are in your first year and you've really dove in deep and you guys have this massive property. So do you want to start off by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, why you got into flowers, and just your growing size and all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Jordon Davis. I'm the owner of Jordon's Flower Farm. So we are a first-year flower farm. We're located in Oklahoma, specifically Claremore. We have 8 acres, so we are growing on 5 acres currently. Not that they're all in production, but that's the space that we have to grow on. So we bought our property in October of last year, and so we spent the winter months planting, and then have just been planting ever since. I kind of just dove in head first, and been having a really great time doing that. We have planted 2,000 peonies, 1,100 garden roses. We have 2,000 dahlias in production right now that we're harvesting from. And then we have an annual field that we just finished and terminated. And then we have our summer annual field and then a sunflower annual field that we have in production right now. This next week, we're going to be working on putting in our very first perennial field. So yeah, we just dove in head first, but it's been super fun.
That's incredible because I feel like every time I looked on Instagram, especially over the winter months, you had like a checklist of things that you were going to do that week. And I was like, there's no way this woman is getting everything done. And you ended up getting, I feel like at least 85% of what you set out to get done. Yes. How did you have any experience in growing stuff before? Like, how did you even
so didn't have any experience. So I always like to tease and tell the story of like my husband and I went to Lowe's one night and I bought a dahlia tuber, and then it just like all spiraled out of control from there.
What happens with most people?
Yes, exactly. He showed me, we were driving home that night, so I had bought a dahlia tuber. He showed me a Connor Ward video. My husband's big into lawn care. So he had shown me a video, and then later that night, as I was watching videos, I found Floret, and just kind of fell in love with I think the idea of flower farming, and then gardening. So I had no experience growing, couldn't keep anything alive, I would say 3 years ago. And so I just fell in love with gardening, created a huge garden at my house over those 2 years. And then in fall of last year, we went to U-Pick Farm. And that same week, I was like, no, I really want to do this. This is something I'm really interested in. I really want to do it. And we bought 8 acres that week. So just kind of dove in. I don't think I necessarily messaged it to my husband that we were, going to have a flower farm. I think I called it a cutting garden back then. So it's a little sneaky, but yeah, he's definitely on board now, and we have full-blown flower farm now.
Is it easy to find land where you are? Because I feel like a lot of people actually struggle with finding a place to grow in general.
Yeah, no, I would say like yes and no. There's a lot of land in Oklahoma. I will say that like there had always been this part of me in my heart, like I didn't really understand or know why. I had always wanted a lot of land, so I'd always kind of kept my eye out for the right piece of land for us. And I knew with him loving like lawn care, the land needed to not have a lot of trees, and we're big lake people, so it needed to be close to the lake. And so it just so happened, I mean, we had a contract on a property the prior year. Just wasn't the right land for us though. So it's not easy to find land here, but it just so happened that that week it was the right piece of land at the right time. It was no trees, 5 minutes from the lake, so I could have like that farm feel that I wanted to have, but he could still be close to like the lake. And so it just worked out for us that it was a really good property for us.
Okay, I just want people to realize that you didn't just say, okay, I found a really pretty dahlia at Lowe's and then let me go grow flowers and boom, I bought land, right? This was a journey.
No, it's like a 3-year progression of, falling in love with flowers and growing them. And I had probably, purchased hundreds of shrubs at that point that I had in my landscape. And I had spent a good 2 years of just like learning, and I had grown things from seed and, really just fell in love with growing things from seed to bouquet. And so it was like last fall when those would come together, and I was just like, I love this, I really want to do it. It was just a passion that I loved. So that's kind of how we got into it.
Yeah, okay. So I think you have had more experience than, than you realize in some ways, right? Yeah. And all of that obviously helps. So I think I remember you saying that it was like 45 minutes from where you were originally living, right?
So it is still 45 minutes from where we live today. So our house is on the market. We are in the process of building out. We haven't started building yet, but we've drawn up plans and all of that to move onto our property. But yeah, it's still 45 minutes from us. So we have a pretty structured schedule that we follow. So we're out there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then usually one day on the weekends. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday are harvest days. And then any farm maintenance that needs to be done, my husband typically handles while I'm harvesting, and we do florist deliveries Tuesday, Thursdays, and then farmers market on Saturdays. So we follow a pretty strict schedule to kind of keep up with it, but yeah, 45 minutes away, it's a long drive.
So I do have a logistical question before we start getting into some other stuff. Do you have irrigation and stuff on that site?
Yeah, so our property, now my husband would be able to tell you all the specifics, but our farm is actually set pretty far back from the road, and so there wasn't a water tap or anything, so we had to get the water tap. He had to run the irrigation, so there's actually videos on Instagram of him trenching and running the irrigation over the winter. But yeah, no, we have drip irrigation. He put in all the irrigation, so we actually have right now we have space for 11 beds, and our bed sizes are 100 feet by 70 feet, for each field. Okay. So we have space for 11 fields. And so each one of them, he's ran irrigation to where it can be irrigated.
Wow. Okay. A lot of work.
And we have it all set on a schedule because we're not there to water it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So I introduced you as being in year one. One thing that you haven't mentioned is that you actually have a very young child too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're doing all of this along with a full-time job, right? So talk to me about how that's been, especially in year one. Because I feel like year one is all of the setup. You're doing a lot of things that you normally wouldn't be doing in years 2, 3, 4, hopefully. Right? So, how has that been for you?
Yeah, I would say it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So we have, so I am a consultant by day. So I have a very demanding day job where I'm working 40 to 50, sometimes 60 hours a week for my day job. And then we have 4 kids. So we have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so, it's extremely hard. I think trying to balance all of it, I think one of the important things that we've done is try to figure out how to incorporate the kids into the farm, and not just from work, but spending quality time with them. So my 15-year-old son on Sundays, that's like our farm day together. So no matter who goes to the farm, like he's always there with me, and we really enjoy that like ride to and from, right? That's like our bonding time and where we get to spend time together and laugh and have fun and, you know, take the top off the Bronco and just be silly, and we have a great time doing that. Then like my 17-year-old daughter, right? Like she doesn't want to come out to the farm, like she's way too cool for that. But what we figured out is like she loves making the bouquets with me. So on Friday nights when she gets off work, I'm usually making them late, right? Because I have a day job and then I have to harvest. So like we're normally making bouquets on Friday nights from like 9 to midnight, and it's something that her and I do together. And so that's like our time to like bond. And then our 13-year-old daughter, the way we've incorporated her is like she's my like very intelligent, intellectual child. And so what I would really like when I look at like, and I step back and look at it from a business perspective, is like my dream is to be like wholesale specifically, but obviously we're doing retail right now at the farmers market. And so, but I would love to be able to take that piece of the business and let her run that piece of the business. When she's in high school, so she can like save for her car and save for college. So what we're doing now is like, you know, she's always at the farm with us, but also she's working the market with us on the weekends. So she's seeing like the setup and the interacting with the customers and all of that. And so like we pay her to come work at the market with us. You know, we're paying her $8 an hour, right? Just to come and get that experience. But it's like, you know, we don't always want to be the ones at the market. So like we want from like a business standpoint to have that like in our business structure, but I think it's great to like a way to teach her and to have that time with her. So it's really hard to balance having a full-time job, 4 kids, and having the full-time flower farm on top of it that we did go really big with year 1. So I think it's just really been important to like figure out how to still have that time. Like, right, we're not having a lot of dinners at home. We're just not. Like, we do Tuesday nights as our night off from the farm, and we do a family dinner at home on Tuesday nights. That's basically all right now. Like, that's not ideal, but we're 45 minutes from our property. So we're just trying to figure out how to balance all of it.
Yeah, but I feel like you're being very intentional, and it's almost better in some ways because you have families where, you know, every day is at home, and then yet some people don't even have dinner all together, right? My husband's family kind of grew up like
Yeah.
that. So it's great how intentional you've been with the business and involving your kids.
Sure.
So you started talking a little bit about selling, and I know that that's going to be an interest for a lot of people. So you said you have farmers markets. I know you've been selling a bit to florists. Talk to me about what year 1 sales looks like right now in terms of the mix.
Yeah, so we have, I want to say, 4 different revenue streams. So we have the farmers market, we have florists, we actually do a little bit of landscaping work on the side, and then we also have subscription sales, bouquets. So I would say from a mix perspective, and now when I pulled my numbers, my subscriptions were in last year, so actually those aren't included in my numbers when I was looking at them for this. We're about 60% farmers market, about 20% subscriptions, and 20% landscape. So we have a couple of landscape jobs that we do at the start of the year, and it's just a good way, right, to just kind of bring in a quick
cash flow.
Yeah, it really is, you know, like
Yeah.
It doesn't take, because I'm used to planting in such large quantity at this point, it doesn't take me long to do it. And because, you know, I love gardening, people have seen our gardens and seen what they look like, and so then they want theirs to look like that. So it's been a really good way to like bring in quick cash at the beginning of the year to help, you know, with being able to buy plants for the farm. And typically, you know, I kind of the other thing we do actually at the farmers market, we sell cut flowers. We also sell plants. So that is another like revenue stream that we have. So we've brought in like specialty garden roses, and so we sell them potted at the farmers market. That has done really well for us. Next year, we're planning on bringing peonies in too and selling those at the farmers market too. So it's just like, and what I've found is that it's a different customer base at the market. So you have your customers that are going to buy cut flowers from you. Those aren't the same customers that are buying plants from us. And so it's bringing more people into our booth. And so it's just been a good strategy for us. So we had to get like our nursery license too, and not just like our, you know, sales tax permit and things like that. But it's another source of revenue that really, you know, when you're already bringing things in for the farm, why not bring in a little extra to pot up and take to market?
Yeah, I think that's a really astute observation that it's a very different customer shopping for landscaping stuff versus cut flowers. Because at the farmers market I used to sell at, there was a landscaping dedicated booth, right? And very different people walk into that booth versus my
Yeah.
booth. Can you talk a little bit about your farmers
Sure.
market? Like, so you're like close to Tulsa, right?
Yeah,
Oklahoma,
so we're close to
or
Tulsa. We're
okay.
not at the Tulsa Farmers Market. So we did apply. So there's two. So there's like a Broken Arrow Farmers Market and a Tulsa Farmers Market. Both large, really great markets. So we got into the Broken Arrow Market. Love it. I would say it's like a little. I don't even know if I would say it's smaller than the Tulsa Market, but I don't know. They're pretty competitive at this point. Really great market. Very busy, very consistent. I would say the thing I've learned this year, right? Like I have a sales goal in mind of what I want to hit at market every week. We're not hitting that number. And so what I've learned is that with like the number of flower vendors that our specific market has, it's not going to be able to support the sales volume that I wanted to get to in the summertime.
How, how many vendors do you guys have
Yeah, so
at
we
that
have
market?
4 flower vendors at the market. Yeah, which
Wow.
is a lot. But then also there's other vendors at the market that are also able to bring flowers as well. So this for summer, in the spring, I think we're all selling
Bonkers.
out. It's
Yeah.
really, really good. But in the summer, when everyone has flowers, I think we're going to have to figure out a different strategy of how do we hit that goal that we want to hit every single week.
Yeah, and now is kind of that time of year. I feel like after July
Yeah,
4th through maybe like mid-August, there's always a lull, and it's like everyone experiences that. But that's crazy. You guys have
it's
four
a
flower
lot. I
vendors.
think the
I mean,
Tulsa
this
market only
this
maybe has 1 or 2. So we got
okay.
denied from that one, which makes sense, right? Like, but we do also do the Tulsa market, but we only do it once a month, and we do it on Sundays. They do like a special arts and eats market, and so we do that one on Sundays, and that one has done really well for us as well. So we're actually doing that one this week.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, like that market does have to be pretty big to support
Yes,
for flower
it's a big
vendors.
market.
Would
I
you?
think there's
Yeah. Would you?
80,
I say
70 or 80 vendors.
80
I think that's
vendors?
what it is. It's big.
I was gonna say, do you know roughly the traffic that goes in there? But like with 80 vendors, it sounds like it's like a, I don't know, like you're definitely getting thousands upon thousands of people
Yeah,
walking
it's a
through the
lot of
market.
people. It's a big market. It's great. It's been fantastic, right, to jumpstart our business.
Wow.
Because I always go back to thinking like what Dave Dowling always says is like you don't grow the flowers until you know who you're going to sell them to,
Yeah,
right? Like that always just like sticks
exactly.
in my brain. And so what I knew is like maybe that's not what we really want long term for our business, right? Like I really want to be selling to florists. Like I have so much respect for what they do and so much passion for seeing them take our product and just transform it, right? Like I love that so
Yeah,
much. So I think market's not really what we want to do long term, but like, right, we needed somewhere that we could guarantee sell our flowers year one. And I think we'll
yeah,
always, it was interesting though, is I think that we'll always keep the market now because I'm like very, probably don't come off this way, but I'm very shy. And very introverted, honestly, if it's not like one-on-one. So I really thought like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like what's the market going to be like? I love it so much. Like the 4 hours of interacting with the customers and they just want to talk to me about flowers for 4 hours straight. And like no one else wants to do that. Like my family wants me to stop talking about flowers. So it's just so much
that's
fun.
so. Yeah, no, I mean it's a different kind of interaction, right? Even for introverts, I think, and
Yeah.
extroverts. I want to talk a little bit more about the market because this is so interesting to just see like how different markets are. Um, like, what price point are you selling your arrangements at, and are you doing any jars, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So I always think that's an interesting topic too. So I've kind of like jumped around, right? Like I'm trying to figure it out still. So we do typically 3 price points. So we do a small jar for 15, and I'm talking it's
Hmm.
small, right? Because I'm selling to florists, so I'm not going to undercut my florist sales to sell lower at the
Of course.
market, right? Like it's gonna have right now, like last weekend, it had 4 stems in it. It had 1 dahlia, 2 sunflowers, and basil. And I usually
Okay.
will bring like 10 of those. But like we sold 8 of them last weekend, so like they're selling. So I think that the $15 price point at our market is a really popular price point. And then we also do wrapped bouquets where I usually have like anywhere from 10 to 12 stems in it. And we're doing those anywhere from 20 to 25. I was at 25, I just dropped down to 20, just to see if that helped. And I think it's helping.
Yep.
Though this weekend we have mostly dahlias right now. And so I may go back up to 25 this weekend because, again, I'm not going to undercut what I'm selling them to florists for, because that's such an important thing to me. So we may go back up this weekend. So I am kind of just still trying to figure that out. And then we always do a large jar as well, but I only bring about 5 of those. So, and we've ranged anywhere from $30 to $40 on those. And
Got
those are
it.
more
Okay.
of like,
And then,
in my mind, this is what I call them in my mind, like our garden party jars. So they're like the I've gone out to my garden and this is truly what I've done, right? Like I go out to our garden, we have so many like perennials, shrubs, and I like put together arrangements from like walking out into my garden. And those
that's awesome.
typically sell. We typically always sell at least 4 of them. And like on
Wow.
Mother's Day,
Okay.
those
So,
did so well. Like I will definitely bring more
yes.
next year.
Yeah. I mean, Mother's Day, definitely you can get away with a much
Yes.
higher price point in general,
Yeah.
right? Um, so, so then would you say like you're selling at a similar price point with other vendors? Like, how are you, I guess, differentiating yourself? And how are the other 3 vendors differentiating themselves? Because I'm assuming everyone's not selling the same thing.
I would say that probably 4 of us, like the flower vendors, our products are similar, right? Like they are.
Yep.
2 of the 4, like me and one other, we both sell wholesale as well. So we do have very similar
Okay.
products. All 4 of us are fantastic growers, like beautiful, good products. I really think it's a relationship thing, right? I think that's how we all
Oh, yep.
differentiate ourselves. I think we all have customers that are coming to us every single week because we've built those relationships with them. It's weird to say that, but I think that that really truly is the differentiator. We have plants. They sometimes do, not always though, so that brings in different customers. We're probably the biggest vendor that has like dahlia, like biggest dahlia vendor. So that's been, I think, a differentiator. But I think like definitely in spring we all had very similar products. Some better than others,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
will
in the
say.
spring, you're a little bit more, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just one of the vendors I think definitely had better products than us in spring. Beautiful. I mean, she's a fantastic grower, like just beautiful products.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, in the spring, it's a little bit harder to differentiate because there's only so
Right.
much, right? And I guess, by this time, there's a little bit more variety. But I think, if the 4 of you guys continue to sell at the same market in the next, 3 to 5 years, what you sell today is going to look different than what's in 5 years because I think you guys will naturally start deviating towards what you guys do best, right? So, and I think this is like a concept that we've talked about at length before privately, which is around just this idea of competition and the demand for local flowers. So I think it's really incredible that your market actually will allow multiple flower vendors because that's not the case for a lot of markets. And it also feels like your area like supports local flowers.
They do. I think we are so fortunate. There are several of us that are selling wholesale to florists here in this market. There's several flower farmers in our market in general. I'd say there's at least, I don't know, 7 to 10 of us, right? And I think that there is absolutely a market for all of us. I think we all have our own like specialty niche areas, whether that be, one person has a farm stand. One of my really good friends that's a flower farmer has a, on-farm events where she's doing, they have a beautiful barn and they're doing weddings and they're doing picnics with charcuterie boards, and they also have space for photography. And, we each have like our own niche area, and the products are different that we're selling, right? Like one person may be a fantastic lizanthus grower where I'm going to specialize in, dahlias and garden roses and peonies. We each have our own different area, and the florists are supporting it, right? Like they're buying from us week after week after week. And it just shows like that there is still so much room for growth, I think, in the areas. In fact, like the reason that I even started selling to florists, I didn't think we'd sell to florists this year. I think in my head, like I'm just learning, right? Like it's our very first year. I thought we'll focus on market this year. We'll build relationships, but like we won't sell. And it's actually one of the florists reached out to us on Mother's Day because the other grower she had been working with, who has, I mean, the most amazing. she's been growing for 5 years, right? She has a farm background, beautiful products, but she needed some focal flowers because that grower has a high tunnel, and things are going to finish earlier, amazing early spring, but then like once you get further in, like you may not have those things. So she reached out to us, and then still on Mother's Day, like even with like that farm and my farm supporting that florist, they still sold out so fast on Mother's Day. So there's definitely, and that's just one florist, right? And there's so many locally that are supporting our farms and wanting to buy from us and like wanting us to grow more and more and more. It's been super, I mean, just amazing. What a great opportunity we all have to just like continue to expand our farms because the need is there.
Yeah, and I find that if you have the right florist, right, meaning the florist who not only wants to support local, but is doing a lot of events and needs like mass quantities of flowers, these florists can't get everything from one or two farms. They're usually going to like a dozen. I mean, we have florists who like have to go to our co-op and another New Jersey co-op just to get the bulk of their flowers for an event, and they still have to go to a wholesaler.
Exactly.
Like it's not.
I watch them on Instagram week after week after week. They're doing multiple weddings in a weekend, and I'm talking thousands of flowers at them. And when they're just buying buckets from us, which like thankfully they're buying those buckets from us, but just think about how much room we have for expansion when we're seeing them post photos of thousands of flowers every weekend. Like it's limitless. Yeah. Like like there's so much space for all of our farms to grow to be able to support their businesses because they're growing too, right? Like, and as they grow, we have to grow with them.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. So you touched upon some of the flowers that you're specializing. I think you said dahlias, roses, and peonies, right? Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you get to those three? Yeah. And are all of them are in the ground, right?
They are all in the ground. So
that's crazy.
So we have 2,000 peonies planted. So that is 2 fields worth in our farm. We do have space for a third field, which we do intend to put in the fall. I want to get some more whites in the ground, so I don't think we have enough whites yet. I'm trying to do a balance of like early, mid, late varieties. So of course, like I threw it all in a spreadsheet and pivot table, and I'm like, I don't think we have enough early ones. So I knew you love that.
Speaking to my heart.
Yeah, so I'm like, I think we need to have a spreadsheet going of like, these are the varieties that I think we need. But also, right, like there's a cost to all of it. And I know b.a.r.e. does their big sale in like December, January. And so we're going to wait and we're going to see what they have around that time and see if it fits with what we need. And if not, we won't get that third field in this year. That's okay. But we're just trying to like, plan it the most economically. So with the peonies, though, there's a lot of like infrastructure things that you have to think about. I mean, you're going to have 60 to 80,000 stems a year coming out of that field, 3 years from now. So we really, we're going to have to put in a barn that has a large cooler in it because that's what we're going to have. With the peonies, my main focus right now is like being able to support local florists. But with the peonies, I think we do intend to ship peonies. I mean, if you're going to have 80,000 of them, you've got to have a plan for that, which luckily my husband does have some background in logistics and shipping, and so that will be his focus because I want nothing to do with that. We shipped garden roses this year, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do it. This is terrible. So then the other crop that we'll focus on is garden roses. So trying to think about like timing, right? So you have your peonies, and then next up comes your roses. They've been incredibly challenging here. I knew that they would be. Maybe I was a little naive on how hard they would be because they have been really hard. Jesse's very familiar that we have a thrip infestation in our roses.
It's like thrip victims unite. Yes. Seriously,
we bonded over thrips. Yes. So we've been battling that unsuccessfully for 5 weeks now. We have 1,100 garden roses in. Most of them, so we have 22 rows of roses.
And they're all like newly planted this past winter.
Well,
right?
Yes, they are new. That's what I was going to say. So they are all, yes, newly planted on our farm. We did buy, can't tell you exact number. I want to say somewhere between like 100 and 150 from Grace Rose Farm when she was selling off her estate roses. So we got like Distant Drums, Coco Loco, and Honey Dijon from her. Those are like your 3 most popular with florists. So we did buy those from her, so more mature plants, so like 3 to 4 year old plants. So more expensive to get them, but we were able to cut off them this year. I would say we probably did 1,000 off of one row, which isn't, we haven't got the return on our investment yet, but
that's incredible.
yeah,
still.
I mean, but they were incredibly expensive.
Yes.
But I mean, like, I think that we'll get there. They're hard. Yeah. I think I know that in Oklahoma, we're not going to be cutting on garden roses in June, July, and August. We're going to be cutting on them in May and September. And I had to decide, am I okay with that? We have a large farm. We have a 5-acre farm. I was okay with devoting the space to those, knowing I could only cut on them for maybe 2 months of the year, because they're a crop I love, right? And I want to figure out how to make it work for our farm. So whether that means putting shade structures up so we can cut on them more, like, we're definitely open to exploring those opportunities. I'm not worried about it this year, right? Like, I'm frustrated that we have thrips because I would love to be harvesting from them, but I never really had intentions of harvesting from them until year 3. Just because that, that's kind of like the, your whole like perennial thing, like whatever the saying is, sleep, leap, creep. So year 3 was really like when I thought we'd really get like a good harvest from them, since they are just all mature young plants. So yeah. We're just going to learn. We're just going to keep learning on that crop, and we'll figure it out. And then our third main focus is dahlias. Obviously, it was like my one that I fell in love with at the very beginning. Also, another one that is challenging in Oklahoma, right? Like, it's super hot here. But, I'll tell you, as I'm finding varieties that are thriving, and I'm finding varieties that aren't working at all. So our strategy for this year was we brought in 25 of each. So we have 2,000. I actually have 2,400, but I haven't planted the last 400 because I just haven't had time yet. It's going soon. Maybe not. I don't know. So we did 25 of each variety, just so we could get a sense for what works here, what doesn't work here, which ones do we love, which ones are our florists buying, which ones are our customers buying. So that's been really good to learn that way. There's ones that I'm like, we will plant 200 of it next year. And there's ones that I'm like, we'll not plant any of this ever again because it's not working at all here. Like Cafe au lait. I don't think she's ever going to thrive here.
Oh, well, may not. Yeah, I mean,
we did plant 200 of her. That's
right?
a bummer.
Yeah. Oh
well.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah. I mean, you live and you learn, yeah. Right? But let's talk about logistics of that, because as you're I'm just thinking about, it's peak dahlia season basically for you right now. You guys are in a much more warm climate than we are. Who is picking all of these? Like, it can't just be you.
It's just me.
Job, right?
Yeah, no,
it's just you.
Yeah, so I go out on Monday night, Wednesday night, and Friday nights. So logistically, what does a day look like for me? Is I'm working 8 to 5 every day. And then on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, once I'm done working, drive out there. We're out there by 6. We're out there usually from about 6 to 9 something. We're usually home around 10, 10 to midnight, bed, house things. That's pretty much what every day looks like for us. So yeah, I'm harvesting every single stem. The kids have not harvested at all. Charlie will, my 13-year-old, she'll bunch for me. Like, she'll kind of follow behind me and like rubber band them, but not on the dahlias. She hasn't actually helped on the dahlias. That's just been me so far. Yeah, it's a lot. I find the dahlias less overwhelming than like the annual crops, though. That was really overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. Like, having to harvest all that by myself was a lot.
Which annuals in particular?
Not that, like, the annual rudbeckias. We had probably 50 feet of Sweet William. That was a lot. Ranunculus wasn't terrible because it wasn't hot then. I think the rudbeckia and the Sweet William, just because it had gotten hot here,
and it's almost like a blessing and a curse where there's so many, and you're like, I have to harvest you, because if I don't, then it's not good for the plant, and you're not going to produce more, right? Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And then, like, with the rudbeckia, you start realizing, like, oh, there's 10 blooms on this plant, but really 2 are usable.
Right. I'm like, I'm never going to catch up on this. And I think I would just hit a point on the annual crops where I really truly was just like, I'm never going to be able to harvest all this on my own. Like, and then I just kind of let them go. I don't know. So I think that's where I realized, like, I don't think I'm ever going to be a great annual crop farmer. Like, I don't.
And there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
I don't think it's my niche.
Yeah.
I think we'll always have some, right, to round out bouquets.
Yeah.
But like, it's not what I love.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I think my mind is still just being blown up by the fact that you do all of this, like in terms of the harvesting, because like I'm complaining going out on a 40 by 90 foot field, and I literally just walk out to it, right? Like you still have to drive and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So that's a lot to manage, especially in the height of the summer. Yeah. So logistically then, with the equipment and planting and all that stuff, did you guys have that to start or all acquired?
Yeah, all acquired.
Like,
so we have a tractor out there, you know, a tiller. We kind of got it as we've been doing projects, right? Like as we've had a need for it. So like as soon as we bought the property, we bought the tractor. From a mowing perspective, really, because I don't think we didn't know we were going to go this big this quick. That's just me. Like that's just how I am. So we bought the tractor, and you know we have a couple implements for it. There's like a fly flying around my face. So we have a couple implements for it out there. We keep all the equipment out on the property. We have fantastic neighbors out there, so we don't have to like bring the equipment back and forth. You know, as we were doing the roses, we bought like a huge post hole digger. Trying to think what other things we've got. We got a bed shaper that was kind of a fail. It just didn't work for us. I think maybe now if we tried it again, it would work, but it was too wet in the winter. I don't know. It just wasn't working for us. So yeah, just like as we've needed things, we've bought them.
Okay. And then, so what kind of tractor do you guys have?
We have, it's like the littlest John Deere one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's too small for our farm. Like we quickly.
I was gonna say like at 10 acres. Well, I mean, I think they're usually rated, I think, for around 10 acres or so. But with the intensity and what you guys are doing,
it's just
probably.
Well, I think that was our issue with the bed shapers. The tractor just wasn't quite big enough, like to really do what we needed to do with it. So our neighbor has a bigger tractor, so I think we're gonna try with his. But at this point, we've kind of like gone a different route. Like instead of doing like the super thin, you know, biofilm, we're doing like the heavy duty, and like the big, huge strips of it and landscape staples. So we're liking that. I think it's working better for us anyway. So I think we'll just continue that route. So we'll probably sell off our bed shaper. It was a great idea in theory. Yeah.
So I think on Instagram it was really like a few days ago where you announced some exciting news. Talk about that.
Yeah, so currently we have 8 acres, 5 for the farm, 3 for our house, but the 5 acres next to us was also empty. So our neighbors that own it had offered it to us a couple, maybe like a month or 2 ago. And so then over the last few weeks, we had been in talks with them. So we are moving forward with getting the new property from them. So we're so excited about that. I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for our farm. It's just really exciting. So one of the things that we really want to be respectful of, so even though we have this many acres, like there's still houses right there. And, you know, we don't want to put high tunnels in people's backyards. So the new property gives us the opportunity to kind of tuck the high tunnels in to where it won't really be, you know, in the winter, everyone will be able to see them, including us. But it won't be, you know, in everyone's eye lines all the time from their homes. So that's like the big, huge reason we really wanted the property, is to be able to put high tunnels on it. So it gives us that opportunity. So we'll definitely start exploring that in the next couple of weeks. Probably, I don't know yet when we'll get one, but sometime in the near future. But I think it just opens up a lot of opportunities. You know, we'd love to do on-farm workshops with some of the local florists. They've approached us about that. I think that would be a really amazing thing to do. We do plan like for the inside of our barn to be like pretty, so that we can, you know, do some like arranging things on farm. And I just think it opens up a lot of opportunities. You know, one of the very first things that we thought we would do before we bought the property was a U-pick. And we have customers asking us constantly if we're going to have a U-pick. So, you know, it gives us the opportunity that if we want to go that direction, that's something that we could do. You know, it opens up a lot of opportunities. just for the future. So I don't know, 100% what we're going to do with it yet. I do have plans to bump our annual beds over there this coming year so that I can keep filling up our side with woodies and perennials. Since that's like my one true love. But yeah, we'll definitely be moving the annual fields over. So far that's what we know we're doing with it. We're really excited.
That's awesome. I mean, like it sounds like it's. I think it's really great to hear that you've been so mindful of your neighbors and seeing that land as giving you that flexibility to kind of shift things around, right, versus being constrained. Because that's not something that I hear of often. Often people, don't really have a choice, right? But that's really cool that that really factored into your decision making process. The other thing I wanted to talk about was like going back to the selling piece, right? Because it's very clear you guys put in the work, the hard sweat, like the sweat and sweat equity with all of
Yeah.
the infrastructure and stuff in. But when it came to selling, you haven't sold before to anyone prior to the season,
Right.
right? So like how like I guess what I'm trying to say is like talk to me about your confidence level. Like, how did you approach that? Because I think that's the piece where a lot of people have a lot of
Yeah.
difficulty. And not only do they have difficulty, like you are doing so much more at volume, right? So you really have to push out the steps. Like how was it
Yeah.
for you?
So I so I do have a marketing degree. So not that that like tremendously helps, but I have been like taught at least in marketing. So I was pretty intentional, like you talked about it earlier. You saw my checklists every single week, right? So I wanted to be really intentional. I knew that my focus, well, okay, so two things, right? Like I immediately, as soon as we got the property, put in the application for the farmers market because I wanted to be 100% sure we had somewhere to sell our product. And then I will say that my brother, he's a fantastic entrepreneur. He owns an outdoor kitchen company, has built it from the ground up. It's amazing. Had a conversation with him one night where I said, like, we're not going to sell to florists this year. Like, our product wouldn't be good enough. Like, and he was like, no.
I love
Absolutely
it.
going to. And he was like, and you're going to start building those relationships now. And he really pushed me in the direction that I needed to go. And so I was like, okay, so one night I drank a glass of wine and I typed up a message and I sent it to a lot of our local florists just saying like, hey, just want to introduce myself. Like, I'm Jordon's Flower Farm. Here's what we're putting in. Like, we're going to be new to the area. We'll let you know when we have product. And then I was like very intentional. The florists are on Instagram, right? So where when you're selling retail, I think everyone's on Facebook, but the florists are on Instagram. That's where they are. That's where they're posting. So it's really intentional that I wanted to build like a local following on Instagram. And it's still very small, but like it's not like there's 1 million florists here, right? Like I don't need our Instagram following to be huge. I just need the florists following us. And so I wanted them to know who we were, and I wanted them to feel a part of our journey. So I was really intentional about posting like 3 things. Our family, because I want them to know when they're buying from us, that they're buying from Jordan's 3-year-old Conley, who's been running in the flower fields, because she has been, and she's been there on every single trip with us. And I want them to know that, Charlie helped weed everything. So it's like I've been really intentional about showing our family because that's who they're buying from. And then the other thing is like showing our flowers. And then the third, because I want them to know we have good product. And then the third thing has been like sharing our farm plants and what we're doing on the farm because I want them to know what we're putting in. And so a lot of times it's like I'm going to put those lists out there that shows what we're doing on the farm. But maybe they don't care about that. That's kind of like where I got later. It's like maybe they don't care about that. Maybe just us as growers care about that. But then what I tried to follow it up with were Instagram stories of showing the pictures of what we planted. Because that's what they care about. They want to see what they're going to be able to buy later. So I just tried to be really intentional about showing those things week after week after week after week. And I think it paid off because Mother's Day rolled around, and when the florist didn't have product that she needed, we had never worked together before. And she sent me an Instagram message, do you have anything? And I had just come back from the field and I had about 3 or 4 buckets of garden roses and 2 buckets of ranunculus. Absolutely, she took it all. And it was because of that intentionality over, we did that from October through April before we made a florist sale.
You just answered the question I was going to ask. So this was a very long nurturing
Yeah.
process, right? I think a lot of people are afraid of reaching out to these people before they have product in their hands, myself even
Yeah.
included, right? Because it's kind of hard to say
Very.
like, hey, I'm going to have X, Y, Z, and I'm going to be sure of its quality. It's not going to get infested with
Yeah.
thrips, right? But I think to your point, you weren't necessarily just talking about product. You were telling them about your
Yes.
story, right? And that's like marketing 101,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
that's so cool how you brought in the principles of marketing into this, and you basically nurtured your leads that you proactively found. And so now, how many florists are you working with on a like monthly basis? We'll call it.
So I want to say about 10,
Wow.
but not everyone buys from us every week. I'd say we were averaging 2 sales a week. If I'm being super honest, 2 sales a week to florists.
Yeah.
It's gone up. Like this week was our biggest. We had 5 orders. And so, but we are getting repeat customers at this point, and the orders are getting larger. And so for me, I know what number I want to be at every single week with my florist, and I know how many florists I want to be selling to. And so when we're sending out our availability lists every week, we're sending it out to, 40 different florists around town, and we're only getting 2 to 5 orders. And that's okay because we're growing and we're learning
Yeah.
less. And they have to. And I think one of the things that's super important to realize is that not everyone is going to be your customer, right? Like, we're not a good fit for everyone, Like, I think that's actually been a really big, lesson in my brain lately is, if you look at what I'm saying I want to specialize in, like peonies, garden roses, dahlias, we're probably, and I knew this going in because this was pretty intentional. I really love working with wedding and event florists. And so that's
Of
our
course.
niche, right? And I've built our farm around that being our niche. But it is also really important that we start building relationships with everyday florists, because they're the ones that are going to be consistently ordering from you week after week, because your wedding and event florist may not have a wedding that week. And so that's what I've seen is we do mostly sell to wedding and event florists, and so we may not be getting orders from them every single week. And so now I'm trying to focus on building those relationships with those other types of customers, and that one is more challenging.
Yeah.
It's not as local friendly as your wedding and event ones. They're very used to local flower farmers and love buying from us. The other ones aren't as comfortable with us yet. But we have to teach them about our product, because the products we have may not be they aren't products that are being imported. And so they're products they're not familiar working with. And so I think that takes I've been doing a lot, not a lot, I've been doing a little, because it gives me anxiety of just going in shops and introducing ourselves and showing them our product. It's super hard. And it's awkward.
Yeah. I mean, that is hard for an introvert.
Yeah, it's
So.
really hard. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. No, I mean, so many good things that you just said in that. Can you talk a little bit about your availability sheet? Like, how do you send
Yeah.
it? Is it just an email? Do you put photos?
Yeah. So our availability sheet, I do a photo, and then I do a description. So I want to have and I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm just learning, but I have the color, the specific variety name, and then the plant name, that they might be used to, so that they can and it needs to be a photo of your product. Don't put a stock photo. They want to see what have you grown. So we have that.
Yes.
We put our price per bunch on there, and then how many stems are in a bunch. So we have that. And so I am using GoDaddy email for ours, because our website's through GoDaddy. So what I've figured out is I can create the email in there. I have the list of all of our florists set up in there. So I can just email it out to them, but I can also copy the link that GoDaddy creates, and then I can go to Instagram where all of our florists are, and I can just send them that link, so that they can go look at our availability sheet, and it looks like the email.
Wow.
I just figured that out 2 weeks ago, and it's making my life a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's also easier for the florists too to access that sheet through Instagram.
I think I would like to get to a point where it's more of they can it's more of a shopping cart, Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just need
Well,
time.
yeah. And that was my other question, which is how are you managing this in terms of taking orders? Is it manual right now or using a
Yeah,
platform?
it's all manual right now. None of ours, I would love for them to use Rooted Farmer, but none of them are using Rooted Farmer here. I think
Yeah.
yours are using Rooted Farmer where you are. Is that right?
We use Rooted Farmer for our
Okay.
co-op. So if I were on my own, I haven't found much success with using Rooted Farmer outside of the co-op. And to be honest, like there's also some limitations with it. So if you're able to figure out a process without Rooted, I would certainly
Okay.
stick with that process because there's also pretty high fees associated with
Yeah, and
Rooted.
I'm signed
So
up for it. I should probably look at that. Um, but yeah, we're not using it. So yeah, we're just taking orders. It's mostly Instagram, typically.
yeah,
I would say actually some of our bigger orders are email. So it's email
okay,
or Instagram, and then I just like keep a note on my phone for the week of like here's the orders that we have, so I know what I need to harvest, and I just like keep them by day so that I know. Oh, and
wow,
I have, one thing to try to help with the structure, the first like few weeks I was like, I would take any order, right? Just like, give me an order. I'm
yeah,
just excited to have it. I have tried to get a little more structured of saying we deliver Tuesday and Thursdays. Because that matches more with our harvest schedule. So that makes it to where I
yeah,
can harvest on Monday, Wednesday, deliver Tuesday, Thursday on my lunch breaks, and then Friday we harvest for the market. Now, I had a florist message this morning, hey, I need, stuff today. Perfect, I'll bring it. Like, I'm still gonna take them things, but I'm
yeah,
trying to create a little more structure for my family. So that
yeah,
I can have that Tuesday night off and I'm not having to run out, because when your farm's 45 minutes away, it's your whole night's gone. You have to run out
yeah.
there for something.
Yeah. So with these availability sheets, are you projecting a week in advance what you're going to have and then emailing or what's the lead time?
Yeah, so typically I am I'm still working on getting better at it. It's like what I know we already have. Oh, and I'm not telling them a quantity. Right? I don't know if
Oh,
I'm just like, here's what we have this week. But we're at such a scale that typically, I know you and I have talked about this, but like because we've planted so much, I feel pretty comfortable just saying, hey, I have like what I'm doing is I have, for let's say dahlias for example, I have like a purple, peach, and pink mix on our, and I feel very confident that I can whatever they're going to order, I can meet that, right? Like I have tons of purple, pink, and peach dahlias on our farm, and so my like first couple of weeks I was putting a quantity, but I'm not anymore. And we had an order this week for 50 stems of dahlias, and yeah, I could only get them 45 of what they were wanting, but they were okay with that. So if I'm short on
yeah.
something, and if they order something and I don't feel like fully confident that I'm going to be able to meet it, I'll say like, hey, I'll confirm your order after harvest tonight. And they seem okay with that.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I'm not putting a
Yeah.
quantity. Maybe I should.
That's I it's actually really smart, I think, to not put a quantity because then like there's just so much that's out of your control
Exactly.
and things might actually be better than what you project to, right? But that is something that I really struggle with my co-op because I have to project a week in
Yeah.
advance for those pre-orders. So I was wondering if you had to do the same thing too.
No, and I need to get
Yeah.
better about like right now. I just have like two, maybe three colors on our list of dahlias. We have like every color under the sun of dahlias at our farm right now. So finally this week, I just put a note that was like, just let me know what color you need. We have because it's a time thing, right? Like it takes time to get those
Yeah.
pretty pictures to be able to put on
Hmm.
your availability sheet. And like I don't have like I've talked through I don't have time. I thought about
Yeah.
hiring a photographer to come out there and do some like flat lay photos and just get some photos. Like I genuinely might do that this week because I just don't have I would rather pay someone to come take the photos because I don't have the time to do it myself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that would be a really good
I think
investment,
so
and then
too.
also them taking photos of you doing it, of you being
Yes.
out there too, right?
I should
That's
probably send
always.
her a message. I should do that. That would be a good idea.
So, I want to wrap up this interview. I think this is like just like so incredible what you've done. I question whether or not you sleep at
Not
all,
much.
just given what you do. Um, I want to wrap up by asking what has been like your biggest win so far in year one?
Yeah, so I think I have a couple of things. I think the spring season. I was just shocked. I had no idea the demand for local flowers in the spring, and that just was a huge win. I mean, we were just at the farmers market. We were just killing it week after week after week in the spring. Those first 5 weeks, I was just blown away. So we're like
That's
definitely
awesome.
so much more prepared for next year, though. And then I just think like I'm a really big learner, so I think that like I really count it a big win. Just all the learning, right? Like the farm knowledge, the crop knowledge. This year has been huge for that, and I think that that's a huge win. Like it's funny, like when you look in our fields, you can see which one we started with compared to the one now. Looks so different. But like it shows like our progression of how much better we've gotten at farming in just a short amount of time. And I think that like I I come from like a corporate background, so I have some experience in like product management and the agile methodology and failing fast. So like I think for us, like we've gone in big with the intention of like if we're gonna fail, fail fast, right? Because you learn so much faster if you fail faster. So I think I just counted. Maybe things have gone wrong, but I don't know. I'm counting them as wins because we've learned so much this year. It's just been huge to be able to gain all that knowledge so quickly. And if we had gone smaller, I don't think I would have learned as much as we did this year. I think we've learned so much going quickly. And then we'll be able to pivot so much quicker and make changes for next year that will be so much more impactful because of the volume we did it at.
So I think one thing to tease out of what you just said is that you're a student at all times. You're observing and you're trying to figure out how to improve. And I think that's the most important thing, especially in the beginning years, is it's not just you put a plant into the ground. If there is an issue, well, you have to diagnose what the issue is, and then you have to make sure that you can figure out a solution and manage that issue going forward. Because I see a lot of growers kind of just sticking their head under the sand and hoping that things go right, but hope is not a strategy. So for you, it just feels like you've been very intentional, and you've also been such a student to make sure that you understand how to improve going forward. And also in the consulting world, like postmortems are often a thing, right? And I find that that's one of the most beneficial things for me to do is after a crop is done or after something is done, a market is done, you take that step back and you say, okay, what went really well, but what also didn't go well, and how do I improve upon it next time? So I think those are all things, like whether you're flower farming or doing something else, right? Those are all things that we should constantly do.
I agree completely. Yeah, I think like as soon as a crop is done, really taking that time to think about like what went well, what didn't go well, right? Like what colors were selling really well, what colors weren't selling really well. And I've tried to be really intentional this year as soon as the crop is done of putting my order in for next year for the crop.
Wow.
Like we have all of our spring orders. Like I was going back through them this week, but like most of our spring orders are done. We had a florist on farm this week, so I think which was a really fun experience and highly recommend everyone doing that. Spent like 2 hours in our dahlia field with her, but just like talking with her about colors, like, okay, I'm going to go add 2 more colors to our order for spring. But really like as soon as that crop is done, or, as you're going through the crop, taking those notes, what worked, what didn't work, what colors did they love, what colors did they hate, and then put your order in right then, and then you're done with it and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Bring a florist onto your farm.
Fun.
I mean, what better way to work with a florist?
Yeah, it was our first time meeting. It was such a great experience. It was so fun. We just walked the whole property together. We spent, time in the dahlias. She got to pick the dahlias at the end. It was what a fun night we had.
That's awesome. So if people want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram. We're on Facebook. It's at Jordon's Flower Farm, Jordon with an O because my name is spelled weird. But yeah, we're on all the socials.
And you also sell rose roots, was it? Or?
Yeah, we sold bare root roses last year. I think we'll only sell them local. I will say, we didn't really touch on this, but we will have dahlia tubers for sale, not this year, but next year. That is one of the revenue streams we do plan on pursuing. We just want to get our cooler and all that in place first. So we will have dahlia tubers in the future.
Yeah, so I think if you're a flower farmer, which you probably are if you're watching this video, Jordon's Instagram is just really cool to to look at. And if you look at all of her posts and take a step back, it's kind of like, wow, over the past 6 months, this girl and her family has achieved so much. And I think some people might feel a little bit more intimidated, but then others like me feel actually more inspired by it, even though I don't think I could ever take on what you've done, because I kind of, like I said this to you, I'm exhausted reading what you did over the weekend.
Everyone says that.
Yeah. And then actually one last question for you. Do you envision this to be like a full-time endeavor, family thing that you're doing in the future?
Of course, my answer is absolutely yes. I love my day job, so it would be really hard to ever step away from it because I love it so much. So would I love to eventually? Yes. Like, I just love being on the farm. I love the way that it makes me feel. I love sharing it with people. So I think absolutely, is there a plan? Yes, we would love to make this, our full time for our family. But we both are so happy in our careers. I don't know when that would happen. I think we both know what numbers we would have to be at for that to happen. So we've definitely had conversations about, like, what does that look like? And that is a large commercial flower farm, right?
Oh yeah.
Because in order for us to leave our jobs, it would have to be big. And so is that, we just had a conversation, we were in the car driving the other day, and we just had that conversation of like, is that what we want? And we both landed on yes. That is what we want. So yeah, we do plan on, taking it big and letting it be a big farm, bringing on employees and doing all of that. I would think that we'd probably have employees before we're able to leave our day jobs. Yeah, I just love it so much. Like, I would love for it to be, and I think even just for my family, like, I've been off work all this whole week, so it's a good, this is what it would really be like. And I just love it. I love being able to have like Conley in tow with me everywhere I go. She's gone on every like florist delivery with me this week and getting to see the shops. And it's just I just love it. It's so fulfilling. So yeah, I mean, eventually I love
awesome.
that.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jordon. I learned a lot, so I hope others also learn a lot too. And I'll put all your information in the notes below too.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.